So on the plus side, given how well this Hellboy's done, there's still a admittedly remote chance that we could get that third Del Toro Hellboy. Maybe.
Put the bunny back in the box.
Starring amongst others David Harbour, Mila Jovovich, Daniel Day Kim, Sasha Lane and Ian McShane. Directed by Neil Marshall off of a screenplay by Andrew Cosby. This is my review for Hellboy. Hellboy is the story of Hellboy, who came to Earth from World War II experiments. He appeared there as a baby, he was raised by Ian McShane's character, and now he fights monsters and evil and demons. And in this movie, he has to go up against the Blood Queen, played by Mila Jovovich, whose name I probably get wrong all the time, while figuring out what his destiny is and what his actual place is in this world. So the Hellboy movies, Del Toro's ones, I like a lot. It's been a long time since I've seen either of them. I was going to watch this before going into the new Hellboy, but I wanted to come into this with fresh eyes, really. I didn't necessarily want to have those ones deeply embedded in my mind when I went to see it, because I thought it could hurt this film's chances. It does that all on its own. And an issue I had with going to see Hellboy is that when I do reviews, I try to avoid what the general consensus is for films. Sometimes it's difficult to do, sometimes in a good way. Sometimes something comes out and you hear it's a great movie, like that's hard to avoid. But equally, when you hear what's been going on with Hellboy and you've been hearing like the 9% on Rotten Tomatoes and things, it's very difficult to avoid how bad this film is perceived to be. And it could have gone two ways with me. I could have gone in and gone, yeah, it's terrible. Or I could have gone in expecting it to be terrible and kind of enjoyed it. And for the first few minutes of this, I thought that was going to be the case. Or maybe even a bit longer, maybe like the first 15, 20 minutes. Because the first line of this I actually laughed at. And that's a good start. Like, literally, the first thing that's said in this movie made me laugh. And I found the first bit of this to be quite entertaining. Like, it was okay. It was nothing special. It wasn't anything groundbreaking. It certainly wasn't going to be anywhere near the quality of these two. You could tell that instantly. I could tell that from the trailer. But I at least had a little bit of hope. And that hope very quickly just derailed. And I'll start what works with Hellboy, because, there are some things in it. David Harbour, I really liked as Hellboy. I don't think he's quite got the Ron Perlman skills to be able to do this. Like, he doesn't embody the character quite as well, but I enjoyed him. There's not a huge amount to him. I wanted more from Hellboy, but what we got, what David Harbour was given to work with, I think he did a really good job with. Of all of the issues with this movie, and there are a lot of them, he isn't one of them. The writing for Hellboy is, the writing across the board is, but his performance I liked. Ian McShane is always good value, like he is. He does very well here with some pretty terrible material, some terrible lines. He's able to deliver them with a certain gravitas that only somebody with the skills of Ian McShane can have. Daniel Day Kim's fine, Sasha Lane's fine, Mila Jovovich's fine. Everybody is really fine, but they don't have anything to work with at all, because the main issue for this movie is its scripts and its editing, actually, and the soundtrack. There's a lot wrong here. Because this may be the most muddled story that I've seen in quite some time, and I don't understand how. It's a special level of stupidity to be able to take a story that's so simple, which this is. It's literally Hellboy fighting the Blood Queen, trying to work out whether he's a force of good or evil. Very straightforward story, just follows a very, very simple path. So why is this so messy? How can you screw that up? It almost seems like there's so many different elements that the writers wanted to pull from Hellboy lore, and I'm not big on Hellboy lore at all. Say, it's been a long time since I've seen the original two, but there's so much. One minute we have giants on the screen, the next we have the Baba Yaga on the screen, then we have this foe, then that foe, then this crazy thing, then that crazy thing, and it just seems everything's just being thrown at the screen and nothing's sticking. It's just sliding off the screen really kind of despondently. It's just such a choppy movie. The editing is abysmal in this. Literally, you get whiplash from going from one thing to the next. I just want a story that you can follow, that just goes in a very, very simple way. Instead, we just get all of this extra crap and loads of exposition. There are so many exposition scenes here where characters are just talking and explaining the plot to us as if we're 3-year-olds. I mean, 3-year-olds can't watch this because it's ridiculously violent, and let's get on to that. Like, I like violence in movies. I do. Comical, cartoon violence, great. All kind of violence. I'm kind of on board with. I think it's necessary for certain movies. And swearing, I'm still of the mental age, apparently, where I find swearing funny on occasion. But this film took both of them and just amped it up so much that it was just embarrassing. The violence in this just seems to make up for the fact that there's no good story here. There's no good arc for any of the characters, really, except maybe Hellboy. You've got heads being pulled off, bodies being ripped in half, some real visceral blood and gore on the screen, but it's all just so ineffective. Like, nothing really. Maybe once or twice I went, oh, that was cool. But most of it just gets lost in the shuffle here, gets lost in the mix. The swearing as well, there's a pig character in this one. I mean, this is a weird film, but Del Toro's films are weird, so I'm not going to hold that against it. But there's a pig character here who just swears a lot, and at first it's quite funny, but after like the 15th fucking, the swear word, the pig doesn't have sex, it's just like, come on. You need more than this. You can't just coast on violence and swearing. Like, you need more. And the arrogance of this movie, it thinks it's so good at the action and the violence that even after the movie's wrapped up, we get this sort of bonus scene, not even in the credits, just at the end of the film, of like another fight, another battle that picks up sometime afterwards. As if, hey, you know all the fun we've had on this journey? Let's have another one just for old time's sake. And I was just like, come on, I don't want to see any more of this. Like, I'm done. The main villain we get, the Blood Queen, Milla Jovovich's character, I mean, she's clearly having a great time. So, good for her, I guess. Like, she's enjoying herself, and there were certain times where I enjoyed her performance as well, because it's so campy and over the top and silly. But the problem is, with the main villain here, is that there are other much more interesting villains. The pig, for example, he made a much more sort of personal foe for Hellboy because of the brief, crappy backstory we got for them. But if that had been explored and gone a little bit deeper into that, he'd have actually been a very good villain, and he's weird enough to make it work. The Baba Yaga is terrifying. Like, the best looking thing in this movie. Like, she is genuinely unnerving, and there's a really disgusting scene with her. But I wanted more from her, because she was really interesting. The Blood Queen, not so much. She's the most generic of the villains here, but she's the main one, and that's a shame. Mentioning how the Baba Yaga looks, yeah, she looks good, but it's good that something does. I mean, Hellboy, it looks great. Like, the practical effects are pretty decent, but whenever we switch to CGI, particularly in the final act, there's a certain CGI moment. It's used twice. The first time was pretty awful. The second time, Jesus. I don't know how it passed. I don't know how it got through test screenings without everybody going, what the fuck is going on up there? It looks like something from 2001. Like a cheap 2001 movie. This really does look like that so many times. And it's a shame because there are moments where it looks great. Just not enough of them. And the music in it, honestly, it's like somebody just had a Spotify playlist up. Like, they didn't know what playlist it was. Like, they knew the certain tones that this playlist had, but they didn't listen to the songs. They just sort of went, that one, and we'll put them there, and there, done. Sorted. Well, I'm sure it'll work. Doesn't. The music is so distracting. And some of the songs I like in this, some of the songs they played, I actually enjoy listening to. But they don't seem to fit in the film. A couple do, but there's just too many. It just feels like a mixtape of just genericness, really. There should have been something more. There's no decent score to this movie. Instead, it just relies on music, on just songs that we've heard before, just thrown in, and it doesn't work, at least for me, at all. In its defence, there's a couple of times where it's funny. The jokes that work come from David Harbour's character. He gets the best of, I think, the funny moments to work with here, and he delivers them well. As I say, I liked him in the role, even though the role was pretty poor. He was good. But there isn't really much comedy to come elsewhere, and even David Harbour's lines, sometimes they're so awful that they can't be delivered funny. Like, I sort of get what they're going for with it. They're trying to do this sort of hyper-reality cheese. Sort of this just pure, fun, violent, silly movie, I think, is what they're trying to do. But they fail, because it's not that fun. It feels overly long. In large sections, it's really boring. Like Mel, who came with me, I've never seen her so bored before. I think she wanted to leave. At one point, she just left for about 10 minutes. Turned out she was getting ice cream, but I genuinely thought she'd gone home, and I wouldn't have blamed her, to be honest. I mean, I'd have been annoyed she didn't tell me. And yeah, there's sequel set up as well, which I'm not really going to talk about, to be honest, because we're not going to see one. The chances of this Hellboy getting a remake are incredibly slim. I mean, the box office has been terrible, the reviews have been terrible. This was just a misfire from start to finish, and as I say, the trailers didn't do anything for me. I thought it was going to be pretty average. Wasn't expecting it to be full-on bad. But at least there's a few bits I liked. At least I laughed a couple of times. At least some of the violence was cool. Like, there's a fight with some giants that's like, the CGI is not great, but the actual fight itself is one of the few times this movie does feel like it kind of comes to life. But the rest of the time, it's just coasting on blandness. It's just a very disorganised, clumsy and messy film. And yeah, it's on my list of the worst for this year so far, and I'd be very, very surprised if it wasn't there come the end of 2019. I'm going to give Hellboy a 3 out of 10. Have you seen Hellboy yet? If so, let me know what you think about it in the comments down below. What are your thoughts on the 2 Del Toro movies as well? Do you like them? Do you love them? Let me know. I mean, I'm going to rewatch both of them just because I want to enjoy the character of Hellboy again. And as I joked about in the teaser, maybe we'll get that third Ron Perlman Del Toro one now. It's incredibly unlikely, but I feel like we need something good from Hellboy movies now. You know, when you hear how bad things are and you're like, it can't possibly be that bad, can it? And then it is, and you just feel dejected and crushed and bored, and yeah, that's kind of how I was throughout this whole movie. But do let me know what you thought about it. Do hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed this review and you want to see more. I have reviews for Little and White Rose, I think it's called, coming, I should have looked that up, coming in the next couple of days. There's another movie coming out next week, Avengers something or other. I'll have a review for that as well. I don't expect that to be any good, probably be worse than Hellboy, we'll find out. But yeah, look out for them coming soon. You can follow me on Twitter too, @JoeJulians. Come and chat to me on there about anything. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you on the next video.